white or black.
Very good. And so it has a very deep tradition in terms of its service and educational service to the community.
And here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Very good. Ms. Wynn.
The Tennessee Historical Commission began in 1919, so it's not by any means a new state agency. It started out with the responsibility of collecting the records of veterans from the First World War. And eventually its responsibilities were expanded to include publications, historical markers, and around 1966 its responsibilities were further expanded with the Historic Preservation Act of 1966. And with that expansion, we are also the agency that maintains and protects historic properties in the state. We add properties to the National Register of Historic Places, of which Fisk University is a National Historic, is on the National Register, and Jubilee Hall is one of the National Historic Landmarks, which is a different designation. It's just being on the National Register. We participate in the with the bicentennial, and 2 years ago our responsibilities were further expanded when the state legislature designated us as the Tennessee Wars Commission. So we carry on many responsibilities for an agency that is staffed by 15 persons.
Very good. Dr. Mitchell, you know, when we talk about the Declaration of Independence, a lot of people might not have a view of American history as perhaps the two of you have, being both trained historians. Let's have the two of you to give us some background information in reference to the American population and the situation that ultimately led to the Declaration of Independence in 1776.
All right, the American colonies of England, and that's what they were, initially began an economic struggle. The question of taxation had troubled the colonies to the extent that they were trying to make their voices heard. As everyone realizes and is aware, this eventually erupted into a revolution. It didn't begin as a revolution. Most Americans at the time were proud of their English ancestry, but they didn't understand the fact that they must be taxed externally by England if they were a colony to provide the services which they needed. Primarily, they needed the services of an army to keep the Americans, the American Indians, from, and I may upset people with this, correctly responding. For 200 years, persons that came and taken their land pushed them further and further westward. By the 1770s, with the result of the French and Indian War and other activities, the Americans, the American Indians, were on the uprising. So an army was needed. Who would pay for that army? The British people felt they couldn't tax the people of the islands any more than they were already taxed. They couldn't tax them to pay for an army in America. So what really, I think, caused the American Revolution as much as anything was a breakdown in communication. There's often discussion of no taxation without representation. Well, the British felt that the Americans were represented in Parliament. They were English, and there were Englishmen in parliaments, they were represented. The Americans said we need direct representation. This would erupt into a revolution. And as the revolution grew and arms were taken up, there was the need to declare independence. This wasn't an act of illegality. The persons in America, the founding fathers or patriots, felt that they couldn't receive assurance under England, so they must separate. So to gain the respect of the rest of the world and to gain support, they declared themselves independent people.
Very good. And so, and of course, Ms. Wynn, what we'd like to do is to talk about the situation of various groups during this period. And we've got a short commercial break coming up, and I really didn't want to get into that and interrupt you. But when we come back from this commercial break, what we'd like to do is to have you to give us some information relative to the status of various groups involved in the period, so that we might be able to broaden this, so to speak. And we'll be back with you following this commercial break.